I was 12 when Mom and Dad sent me to Camp Whispering Pines in the summer of 1997. It was deep in the Michigan woods, with cabins around a shiny lake and kids laughing under big trees. I didn't fit in. I was shy, always holding my book, feeling alone. On the third night, we sat by a campfire. The counselors told scary stories, and one hit me hard. The girl in the lake. A kid who drowned long ago, her ghost stuck in the water, begging for help. I shivered, trying to laugh it off, but my stomach twisted. The next day, I had to go canoeing. I fell behind, paddling slowly. The lake went dead quiet, and then I heard it. A whisper, creepy and close. "Help me." My heart pounded. I looked over the canoe side, and a face stared up from the water. It was pale, with huge, empty eyes and hair floating like slimy weeds. Its mouth moved, like it was screaming under the surface. I yelled, dropped my paddle, and rowed to shore, my hands shaking. I told the counselors, but they just chuckled, saying I was too jumpy. That night, I couldn't sleep. A voice whispered right outside my window, "Come to the lake." My bunkmates were out cold. I grabbed my flashlight, my whole body trembling, and stepped outside. Something dragged me toward the water, like invisible hands. The moon glowed, and the lake rippled weirdly. That face was there again, right under the surface. Eyes locked on mine, whispering, "Be with me." My legs froze. The water seemed to reach for me, cold and hungry. I ran to the counselor's cabin, banging on the door. They checked the lake but found nothing. No footprints, no ripples. They yelled at me for sneaking out. The next day, I hid in the cabin, too scared to move. But the whispers got louder, inside my head now, hissing, "Come to me." During crafts, my hands shook, drawing that awful face, pale, with black, hollow eyes. My bunkmate Sarah saw and got worried. "You look bad," she said. I told her about the whispers, my voice cracking. She didn't believe in ghosts, but stuck close. That night, the voices screamed, 100 whispers clawing at my brain. I don't know how I got there, but Sarah's screams woke me. I was in the lake, water up to my knees, so cold it burned. That face was right there, inches away, smiling. A counselor pulled me out, but I felt wrong, like something stayed inside me. I left camp the next day, my parents scared by my dead eyes. Years later, Sarah wrote me. She found an old camp book. In 1952, a girl named Clara drowned in that lake, her body gone. She looked like my drawings, pale, empty-eyed, hair like weeds. Whispering Pines shut down after too many accidents. People say Clara's ghost hunts kids like me, pulling them to the water. I stay far from lakes now. At night I hear her voice, sharp and close, calling my name, and I feel her cold fingers in my dreams. The brochure promised adventure under the summer stars. My parents, desperate for 2 weeks without me moping around the house, bought it completely. I expected bad food, mosquito bites, and forced camaraderie. I never expected the blizzard. It hit at dusk, a white fury that swallowed the world. 1 minute, trees, the next, a swirling, screaming void. The power died with a soft sigh, and we were all herded into the main lodge, a cavernous room that smelled of wet wool and fear. The combined breath of 40 kids condensed on the windows, but outside there was only the relentless white. I knew I wouldn't sleep. The sniffling, the whispered anxieties, the raw terror of the counselors, it was too much. I needed the quiet of my own bunk, even if it was a frozen coffin across the clearing. I waited until the night counselor's head nodded, then I slipped out. The cold didn't hit me, it invaded me. It stole the air from my lungs and needled my skin. I was blind, stumbling through a world erased. I found the bunkhouse by tripping on the porch steps, my hands numb as I clawed at the door handle. Inside, the silence was worse than the wind. It was a thick, dead thing. The cold here was different, older, and deliberate. It felt like walking into a meat locker. I fumbled for my flashlight, my fingers clumsy blocks of ice. The beam cut a shaky path through the dark, illuminating the long row of empty bunks. That's when I heard it, a soft, grating sound from the far end of the room, near my bunk. Scrape, drag, pause. Scrape, drag, pause. I held my breath. The wind roared outside, but this was inside. This was close. Hello? My voice was a dry crackle. The scraping stopped. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I forced my feet to move, the beam of my light dancing erratically over the floorboards. I took one step, another. The creak of the wood was deafening. I pointed the light at my bed. Something was sitting there. It was a boy, sculpted from packed snow and dirty ice. Its shape was crude, unfinished, like a forgotten snowman. Two deep hollows served as eyes. In its lap it held a long, bony stick of ice, and it had been dragging it slowly, methodically, against the wooden frame of my bed. Scrape, drag, pause. It turned its head. The hollow eyes found the light, found me. A crack split its face below them, opening into a dark maw. No sound came out at first, just a plume of mist colder than the air around it. Then it hit me, a low, continuous hiss, the sound of a glacier carving, of deep ice shifting under immense pressure. I couldn't move. My body was frozen solid, rooted to the spot. The thing on my bed unfolded. It didn't stand up. It unraveled, limbs cracking with the sound of splitting timber. It slid off the bunk and started toward me, moving in that same horrific rhythm. Scrape, a lurching step. Drag, the other foot pulling through. Pause, a moment of utterly still, silent observation. It was coming down the aisle between the bunks. Toward me, I stumbled backward, a choked sound dying in my throat. My back hit the door. I fumbled for the handle, my numb fingers slipping. It was sealed shut. A solid pane of ice coated the inside, locking me in. The thing was halfway now. The hissing grew, filling my head, vibrating in my teeth. The air burned with cold. I saw frost spreading up my jacket sleeve where it pressed against the frozen door. I was trapped in here with it. Pure, animal terror gave me strength. I turned and threw my shoulder against the door. It shuddered but held. A glance back. It was closer, its icy hand raised. The end of the branch filed to a sharp, glistening point. I screamed then. A raw, silent thing lost in the hiss and the storm. I slammed into the door again, and with a sound like a gunshot, it splintered open. I fell out into the driving snow, scrambling on my hands and knees before surging upright and running, never looking back, toward the distant, blessed glow of the lodge. They found me babbling at the door, my skin blue. They wrapped me in blankets and said I had hypnosis, that the cold and the fear had played tricks on my mind. But I know what I saw. And this morning, when the sun rose on a pristine, frozen world, the head counselor went to the bunkhouse. He came back quietly, his face pale. He didn't say a word to us kids, but I heard him whisper to the cook. He said my bed was covered in meltwater, and on the wooden frame, as if carved by a razor-sharp blade of ice, was my name. The rain on the roof was a soft, familiar drum, a sound Arthur and I had fallen asleep to for 50 years. It was why we'd chosen this, a week at a silent, off-season summer camp. For the quiet, for us. "Remember the honeymoon?" Arthur murmured from the lower bunk. "That little cabin in Maine." "It rained for a week," I said from above, smiling in the dark. We didn't mind. A soft thump against the door. Not a branch, too solid, too deliberate. "Probably a raccoon," Arthur said, but his voice had changed. I heard the creak of his bunk as he stood. The floorboards groaned under his weight. Another thump, softer, like a palm pressed against the wood. He peered through the small curtained window. "Can't see a thing, black as pitch." Then, a sound that stopped my heart. A child's voice, small and waterlogged, seeping through the cracks. "I'm cold, let me in." Arthur jerked back from the door. We looked at each other across the dark, a lifetime of conversation in a single terrified glance. There were no children here, no one for miles. "Go away," Arthur commanded, his voice firm, but I heard the tremor. A pause, then a different voice, higher, sweeter. "We're all cold. Please, We just want to get dry." The knob jiggled, not a violent shake, but a curious, probing motion. Arthur shot forward and threw the deadbolt. The sound was like a gunshot. Silence. Then, a gentle scratching began at the bottom of the door, like small, wet fingernails dragging down the wood. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It moved from one end of the door to the other. Then it began on the walls, a soft, persistent scraping circling our tiny cabin. We stood back to back in the center of the room, our breathing shallow. The scratching was everywhere now, a slow, patient census of every board, every seam. "Ellie," Arthur whispered. "The window." We turned. A small, pale face was pressed against the glass. It was blurred by rain and condensation, featureless except for two dark holes where eyes should have been. It wasn't trying to get in, it was just watching. Another face appeared beside it, then a third lower down, just silent, observing shapes in the dark. The scratching at the door stopped. A new sound took its place, a wet, squelching sigh. Then, a push. The door bulged inward against the deadbolt, not a kick but a steady, immense pressure, as if the entire forest were leaning against it. The solid wood groaned, and a hairline crack split the center with a sound like a breaking bone. Arthur grabbed my hand, his grip painfully tight. There was no back door, no way out. The pressure stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Then, from directly under my feet, from beneath the floorboards, came a final, wet whisper. It wasn't a plea, it was a statement. "We're in." The scratching started again, but this time it wasn't on the walls. It was underneath the floor, under my feet. A dry, scuttling sound, moving from one corner of the cabin to the other. We stand here now, frozen, two old souls huddled together in the center of the room, afraid to take a single step. The rain continues its gentle drum on the roof. We don't speak. We just wait, listening to the things beneath the floor decide what to do next.